Hey everyone, Kevin Lewis with Home Life Benchmark Realty here, and it's January and it's a new year. That means it's time for our 2020 recap, our 2021 forecast, and our December 2020 stats all in one for the Fraser Valley real estate market. Wow, so what a year that was for 2020. Well, at least it wasn't all bad, as the Fraser Valley real estate market was one of the healthiest years we've ever actually seen. In fact, we broke records for 4 of the last months, September through December, as far as the total number of sales. So, why exactly did we break records during a pandemic? While April and May of 2020 were both two of the slowest months on record for those given months, those were the beginning of the lockdowns and everything like that. We hadn't, as an industry, really wrapped our heads around the ways to keep safe, or as a community as a whole, didn't quite understand the safest way to carry on forward. So, understandably, many people were very hesitant, and for those 2 months, there was almost no sales in comparison to what we would normally expect. Now, a lot of the times, these are the busiest months of the year, so that did tend to carry over into the summertime and apparently into the fall through the winter. But that doesn't necessarily explain 2 months of lower activity. Doesn't make sense to see higher than average number of sales for summertime and then record-breaking number of sales through the winter. That doesn't quite add up. So what other factors are there that put that into reality for us? One factor that I've mentioned several times is the ability to work from home. Now, I've seen in some comments, many people disagree with that. However, I'm on the field and talking to buyers, and I've had many of my buyers in the last year say, hey, look, you know what? We want more space. We've traditionally wanted to be closer to work because work has been in Vancouver, New Westminster, Burnaby, wherever it may be. However, I'm able to work from home now, and I only have to go into the office once a week or once every 2 weeks. So that extra long commute, well, that's not so bad for once every 2 weeks kind of thing. I'd rather have that more space and get into that detached home that I had planned on buying in New Westminster in 5-10 years' time. Well, do you know what? I'm going to buy that in Surrey right now because I can actually afford it. Maybe sometimes people have to go a little further east to Langley or Abbotsford or something to get the house that they want in their affordability range. But the sentiment is the same. People are willing to move further away from their work because of the ability that you can work from home much more often. Many studies are showing that this is likely going to carry in, once we're done with all this pandemic garbage, we're going to be ready to move on, and it looks as if the shift to working from home is going to remain a major part of the workforce in the indefinite future. So with this in mind, it only makes sense that people are not going to be buying a home based on their location and proximity to work, because a long commute once or twice a week, maybe even less than that, it's really not the same thing as wake up every day, drive for an hour and a half, park your car, pay $30 to park every day, get back in the car, at the end of the day, come home, and you've driven for 3 hours and only been at work for 8 hours. Well, that doesn't leave you a whole lot of time for free time. Whereas if you're able to work from home, well, yeah, like I say, that once a week you're driving for 3 hours in a day, so maybe your Fridays are a little bit longer. People tend to stay up later on Fridays anyways, so you still have that same amount of free time to spend with your family, spend with your loved ones, do your hobbies, whatever it may be. You're eliminating the time of that commute, and you're going to spend more of that time in home, specifically now due to the lockdowns and the suggestion to stay at home more. But even once all this is done, when you're able to work from home, you're going to want to spend more time at home. Maybe outside the office, that's a totally different topic. Point is, the ability to work from home is driving prices up in the Fraser Valley faster than other types of properties. Another reason that I think the prices and the sales have been quite active is just based on the fact it's a natural cycle of the real estate market. And we had a couple of down, slower years. The last half of 2018, all of 2019, and the first half of 2020 were slightly below average for most of those given months in comparison to their norm. So with all of that in mind, Markets are cyclical. When things go down, they tend to come back up and then they tend to come back down. Over time, real estate prices tend to go up on a curve, but the activity tends to go up and down, and stay relatively the same. Now, of course, over time, our population where we live is growing and the amount of homes where we live is increasing as we're seeing more single-family homes to be torn down and multifamily houses go up, or even single-family lots of 6 houses being torn down where 12 new homes are being built. Generally, we're seeing more homes available to purchase and more people. That just naturally means more transactions because the same percentage of the population is going to buy on an average up and down curve. Now, as far as what 2021 has in store for us, of course, the future is impossible to tell. If I had a crystal ball, I'd be a billionaire with all the money in the world. However, that's not the case. We can take a look at the numbers and the history and make predictions based on what we're seeing around the industry. And I would make the prediction that we're going to see prices remain relatively stable. We may see things peak up a little bit by the end of summer, just to see them come down a touch into the winter, which would be a typical real estate year in the Fraser Valley. I do think that we are going to see slightly higher than average number of sales throughout the spring. Nothing record-breaking, I wouldn't predict. I think that record-breaking is probably behind us and we're going to carry on just going with good solid numbers. However, I do think, like I say, that prices likely to increase by the end of the year by about 4%, which is a relatively normal year in the real estate market. In saying that, I do think that we are going to see condos increase slightly more than the rest of the property types, just because they have lagged behind. I think a lot of that lag was due to the recent insurance issues that we had seen, and I think a lot of those insurance issues have tended to work themselves out, which I've mentioned in previous videos. Overall, I would tend to think that 2021 is likely to be a very, very good year as far as real estate goes. Whether you're looking to buy or looking to sell, I think it's going to be a great time to do so. As buyers, we're always looking for the total number of inventory and to make sure that you're not overpaying for a property. I think that's going to be the case as prices nowhere have really skyrocketed. We see the odd sale that, in my opinion, is higher than it should be, but that's just an individual, and we're going to see that even in a slower market. And I do think that it could be likely that we're seeing the lowest prices today are probably what they're going to be the lowest indefinitely into the future, just based on things naturally going up. And then as far as if you're thinking of selling, well, things are selling quite quickly. Nothing like they were selling the day they're listed back in 2017 kind of thing. But they're giving about a week, 2 weeks, a month, depending on the property type, to get a good solid offer on your home. And in that time, you're still able to complete with reasonable dates and find a home to purchase in the meantime, as there is lots of options out there. So if you are thinking of making a move in 2021, let me know and we can start making a plan now and start getting an idea of what kind of homes you could be looking into and give you an idea of what your home might be worth right now, as all of those are going to be factors into you making your decision on whether or not to make that move happen. As I just mentioned, I do think that the prices that we're seeing today are likely going to be the lowest that we see in the Fraser Valley indefinitely going forward, as traditionally real estate has always increased in price, and we are just coming back up from a recent dip. Typically there has to be a big reason for prices to drop significantly. Now, one thing that I would say is that I would expect to see a price drop in about 3 to 5 years. However, I would not expect that price drop to be greater than where we are today. So likely to see that curve go up and then drop down, whereas we starting here right now. So that might peak out here in about 3 years, drop down to here in about 4 years, and then recover again. It's awfully far out to look. My point is, I don't think if you're waiting for prices to come down, my prediction is that they're not likely going to come down lower than they are today. However, of course, that is just my prediction based on the statistics and what I see in the industry, and that is, of course, liable to be wrong. If you think otherwise, I'm always happy to have the conversation with you and figure things out and work things out together as far as what you think the best plan for your situation might be. And last of all, I want to talk about December 2020. Typically, December is the slowest month of the year. December, January are the slowest months of the year for real estate. There's relatively few listings coming on the market, and most buyers are focused on other things such as the holiday season, getting ready for tax season, the poor weather. There's several factors that often play into the reasoning of why December is typically a slower month. However, this December, like I mentioned before, was absolutely a record-breaking December, blowing the 10-year average out of the water by 87% in total number of sales. Where we certainly didn't break any records, however, is in the number of new listings. And when we typically are going to see listings coming down, new listings coming down, but sales going up, that will often create a situation where we're going to see prices increase. However, we are seeing prices increase, but not drastically like we saw in 2017, 2016, even first half of 2018, because I think the prices of the homes now are at a very, very stable price point, as different factors that come into affordability, affordability being one of those factors into the pricing. Other factors are including the demand, as I just mentioned, the affordability, and those have to line up. And if the demand is really high, but the affordability is not there, and the average person can't afford more house, well, the house prices simply can't increase unless there's this group of mysterious people who are just buying everything. Now, a lot of the news might make you believe that, but that's not the case. I'm working this every day, and I'm working with people just like you and me. Some of my clients, yes, are investors, but they're small investors. It's buying their second property, maybe their third property. But these aren't the people that are driving prices up mysteriously. Prices are where they are today because the market has indicated that, and the market is made up of buyers just like yourself, myself, and you and your neighbors and friends and family. Overall, I think the Fraser Valley real estate market is in a really good place, and as I mentioned before, 2021 is likely going to be a great time to make a move if the timing is right for you. One thing I didn't touch on in today's video was the safety of COVID-19 and everything. As an industry, I'm actually quite proud to say that we have dealt with this very well, and it's been almost overwhelmingly positive as far as the number of the effort put forward by agents and by sellers and buyers alike in order to keep everybody safe through this process while basically having strangers walking through your homes. I haven't had a single incident or heard of a single incident where somebody's refused to wear a mask, refused to sanitize, and has not been very cautious as far as not touching any doorknobs, turning on light switches. Most of the time, that's gone extremely smoothly. And I haven't heard of any of my clients getting sick or anybody passing anything along to anybody along the way. And I hope it stays the same throughout 2021. And I know that the efforts are not going to be waning throughout the year. Thanks for tuning in. And like always, if you have any questions, you have any comments, just let me know below. Send me a text 604-218-5635. Send me an email, kevin@kevinlewis.com. I'm always happy to hear from you. Whether it's about your plans, maybe you disagree with something I've said in the video, I'm always happy to have the conversation. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk soon.